This is our, believe it or not, our 30th Disruptor Series, 30th. So we've grown, and we thank you for growing with us. We've had over 1,000 people from the industry stop by and spend some time with us with our guests. And tonight we've got a very special guest, which is great. And we have over 10,000 downloads on just one of our platforms of our podcast, the Disruptor Series podcast. So if you're not subscribing, please subscribe now. We love that. When this talk is done, we're going to post this. We'll cut it, and we're going to post it on the podcast as well. So in case you're having too much fun or you missed something, you'll be able to hear it again on the podcast, which is great. And if you have questions for this evening's chat, please send the questions to questions@tbwa.com. Questions@tbwa.com. And also feel free to share at hashtag Disruptor Series. Now, today's guest is President Vicente Fox, the 55th President of Mexico. Let me just say a few things about this man. He's had an amazing career of overcoming odds, and he's proof that hard work and determination pay off. He became the president of Coca-Cola Mexico and Latin America. He left the private sector and worked his way up the political ladder. Hang on, there's more coming. He was a congressman, he was a governor, and in 2000 was elected president of Mexico. Senor Fox has seen firsthand how globalization is changing the world. He's here to discuss that and much more, as he's got a new book, right back here as you'll see, called Move On, Beyond Fear and False Prophets. It hits the bookstores this week. 100 lucky people here tonight will get them for free.
I'm one of them.
All right. He's in New York City for 2 days. He stopped by MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, and Comedy Central. His last stop está aquí. He's going to chat with Mr. Doug Melville, our Chief Diversity Officer.
Surprise.
He's losing his voice.
Trump is here.
I'm going to leave it with these two hombres. But thanks again. It's going to be a great night. So, Senor, welcome, please.
All right, well, thank you all for coming out here this evening. You could have been anywhere in the world, and you chose to be here with us. We were coming out like Rocky Balboa, but the cues were off. So, can everyone wave their flags? We gave everyone little flags today. We got to show the love here. We got to show the love. Well, thank you so much for coming to the Disruptor Series. We're glad we could give you a warm TBWA welcome. We sat you on this side so you couldn't see out the window to Trump Tower. Just letting you know. So for context, for everyone in the room, I thought I'd start off with a little context on Mexico, our southern neighbor. It's the 10th largest economy in the world, and one of the largest trading partners with the U.S. Second largest. And for the people in the room, they'd be happy to know, for this audience in particular, 80% of our avocados come from Mexico. We're obsessed with avocados in advertising. I don't know what it is.
Broccoli.
Oh, and broccoli. Yeah, we're not obsessed with broccoli in advertising. So you were president from 2000 to 2006, but looking at everything today, how do you think the relationship is between the United States and Mexico today?
Okay, first I want to apologize for my voice. I've been talking too much this day. But
don't worry, that's later. We will be doing shots with El Presidente. Yeah! It's just like a frat house in here. This is your family. We may have a couple crazy uncles and cousins, but other than that.
We have built a very, very strong, successful relationship, Mexico with United States. Don't forget that back 150 years ago, we were in war, neighbors in war. But later on, we became friends. And we became friends because so many people from Mexico is here. So many people from United States is working in Mexico as migrants. We have close to 500,000 Americans living in Mexico, working in Mexico. That has connected our two societies and our communities. And number three, we decided to become partners. We decided to partner in NAFTA. together with Canada. And we have become the largest economic bloc in the world. We have the largest trade balance in the world, reaching $1 trillion, $1 million US dollars every year we exchange. And we're about even. We have a surplus, yes, a small surplus on the side of Mexico, because we became competitive, because we have worked intensely, because we produce high quality products, and that's why we have that surplus and that trade balance. So we buy half and we sell half of that trade with the United States. As mentioned here, in the case of vegetables, fruits, Mexico has the surplus, and Mexico sells $40 billion to United States. But in the case of meat, the case of grain, sorghum, corn, milk products, we buy $40 billion from the United States. 3 million farmers in this country live out of what Mexico buys to bring and import into Mexico.
Yeah, it's not really well known to the general consensus that 10 million jobs in America are committed to just creating the goods that we sell to the country of Mexico. So that's interesting. So let's get to your book. Let's move on. So this book just came out this week, and the book is called Let's Move On, Beyond Fear and False Prophets. So tell me how you came up with that title and kind of your thoughts when you were coming up with this narrative and writing your thoughts down to be published. Tell me how you came up with that title specifically.
Fear. We all remember that very sad day, September the 11th. By the way, I was 4 days in advance here in the United States as President of Mexico, addressing both joint chambers, senators and Congress people. And we were about ready to close the deal on migration. Unfortunately, September the 11th came about and all the priorities were changed. And so President Bush decided to work first on security and security in the border, then putting together the migration bill. So that's what happened then. But today the relationship is very intense, it's very fruitful, and NAFTA has been that great instrument because we decided to use NAFTA for Mexico to progress, for United States to be competitive, and for Canada to join in. So it's the perfect partnership, and it's been very successful. One figure here, when NAFTA started, the gap on income between US side and Mexican side, let's put it at $1 level. You would make $1 in Mexico, and by learning how to swim and cross the Rio Grande or jumping walls, you begin to win $10. So which human being would not take advantage of that such a strong incentive? So it's an economic issue, the border and migration. Today, 1 generation after, the gap is now reduced to 5-1. And I am sure and convinced that in 1 more generation, the gap will be eradicated. It's going to be a 1-to-1 situation like we have with Canada and with United States. That's the philosophy, that's the objective of NAFTA.
Yeah, NAFTA is really important because, if we pull out, then Canada said that they would pull out as well. And Canada actually just signed a trade deal with China today because they're unsure if we're going to renew the NAFTA trade agreement across all 3 countries. But one thing I want to read here is about false prophets. So in your book, which is it's a great read, an easy read, and it's a really touching read about diplomacy and compromise and listening to both sides. But one thing you wrote here was all false prophets create a heightened sense of looming danger that allow them to consolidate power to a tragic end. Historically, the reaction of the panicked people is to retreat to respective tribes. And there you see the rise of protectionism, nationalism, populism, xenophobia, nativism, racism, misogyny, homophobia, with the corresponding reactions of increased hate speech and violence towards anything foreign or unknown. And you talk about the West's most powerful false prophet. So how do you think things have changed really since Donald Trump came down that escalator and announced his presidency? Because I think it's important because I feel personally, just as a political junkie, that Trump runs America kind of like a casino. He has the high rollers, and he gives them, the comped rooms and the food, and then the penny stocks. He doesn't really worry about the penny slots in the end, and then all the middle class really has to kind of follow the lead of the high roller. But when you look at when he came down that escalator and announced his presidency, how do you think that changed relations with Mexico, or did it not right away, or is it still developing, or just what are your thoughts on that?
Well, the main game changer, was his comments in relation to Mexicans, calling us criminals, calling us rapists, calling us no good people. When we have 35 million Mexicans in this country that are legal and that are working and that are promoting and helping this economy to be more competitive. And they are great people. I admire them. They are my heroes. So that's what we have today. Now, I'm totally for order in the border, for security, for safety. And we have to work together, that line. But building wall will not improve the situation. We need to use our wisdom, our good thinking, to develop strategies to accomplish that objective. Mm-hmm. Using the stick, using these false prophets' promises won't help to resolve the problem. So we did solve the problem and presented it to Congress, Senator McCain, Senator Kennedy, and President Bush administration. And it's been sitting there in Congress since about 12 years ago. If that proposal, if that bill is processed, all the solutions to the migration issue are right there.
So what made you want to get into politics? Because you started out in the private sector, and you worked as a driver for Coca-Cola Company, and moved all the way up to become the leader of Coca-Cola Mexico and Latin America, and then you decided to make a pivot. So for the audience here, because I think we're all pretty active or educated in the political landscape, we live in a world now where you can't really avoid it. What traits or what was the aha moment that you saw, that you felt inside, and then what traits cross over the best from the private sector to the public sector?
I have Jesuit education all my life. And in that school, through Loyola's, the Saint of Loyola teachings, you learn that happiness is attained by being for others, by working for others. This means the shortcut to happiness is doing things for others. It's helping the poor, it's helping the sick, it's putting yourself in the shoes of the other and listen to him, understand him, learn about his problems, and help him to solve them. So that was my education. I came to Campion Jesuit High School here in Wisconsin, in Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin, for a year to learn English and to learn about this society and this great nation. I came to Wisconsin because it was close to Ohio, where my grandfather was born and where he lived. He was an American, and he migrated into Mexico. But when I was in Campion Jesuit High School, one thing I will never forget is when they would tell me, "Go back, you greasy Mexican. We don't want you here." That's the kind of discrimination, of racism that existed here. And that's what Trump has taken us as for his own proposals. He's a net racist, and he's an authoritarian, and he will pretty soon become a dictator if Congress doesn't stop him. if we don't vote for a opposition Congress to him so that somebody will control him. And this is the philosophy of the founding fathers. That's what they taught us. We need government that is split in 3 autonomous and independent branches so that each one protects and combats the other one if they are not doing the right job. And this is what we need, a solid Congress. I'm surprised to hear here today that Congress is trying to put up together a bill on DACA and a bill on migration to satisfy what Trump could approve. That doesn't happen in a democracy. I mean, Congress has enough authority to go on its own and decide what is good for the American people and what is not.
When you look at America, knowing all that you know, what do you think was the deciding moment where the extreme went from Obama to Donald Trump? You know, how could the thinking in such a short period of time go from one extreme to another? Was it the fear and the divide and conquer strategy, or was it pent up and people were waiting for someone that they could follow? But what do you see from your seat, especially because when you were president, you worked very closely with the Bush administration. He was the governor of Texas when you had to work on border issues, and then the president of the United States. And I feel that there had to be some type of collective compromise, but now we're divisive. Neither side really wants to compromise, and people that liked Obama and people that like Trump essentially don't even share the same information highway.
A couple of comments come to my mind. Number one, fear. Effectively, September 11th, a date we all remember, and we hope it never happens again. And but that brought fear. When I come to United States, I sense fear. And this guy Trump seems to see enemies everywhere in the world. Everybody's an enemy. And he feels comfortable because he has that red button there. I mean, that's stupid. He's gonna kill all of us if he pushes that button. So, and I don't understand him getting the level of this crazy guy of North Korea. Let others discuss with him, not the President of the United States. But anyway, fear is a bad advisor to take decisions. And we've been taking decisions based on fear. The decision of a wall is fear. Why else would you build a wall? The Chinese wall was built because of fear to the Mongols and the Manchus. The wall in Berlin was built to enclose freedom and fear for freedom to reach the whole part of Europe, on the East Europe. So it's fear, and fear is very dangerous to have that fear. So Trump appealed to those who have fear. He tells them, don't worry, you don't have a job? I'm gonna get a job for you. Don't worry, the carbon industry is disappearing because it's contaminating. Don't worry, I will fix it. If you don't have Medicare and social health programs, don't worry, I'll get them for you. This is what we heard in Latin America throughout the whole 20th century from dictators, from messianic leaders, from false prophets, and we believed them. So we sat in our chair, we got our corona, and we say, okay, you dictator, solve my problem. My kids need a school. They never solved them. I need a job. We never got the job. And else and else. He's not gonna get the jobs that he's saying you're gonna get. He's not gonna get the Medicare system that you deserve. So this is what I call a false prophet. And we can see in Latin America the genius, the DNA of false prophets, of dictators. Maduro, Chavez, I met him personally, Chavez, and he won the presidency democratically. He got about 70% of the votes to be elected president. And once he sat in that chair, then he became powerful. Then he started dictating. Then he started imposing decisions, claiming that people voted for him. Do you know that only 30% of people in the United States voted for Trump? Only 30%. But he thinks, or it's convenient to him to say that everybody is with him. Oh, come on.
Yeah. Come on.
Move on.
Move on. Right, exactly. So one thing I want to talk about here, you believe in the legalization of drugs.
So much.
Yeah.
Yes.
We don't know no one here has ever done any drugs, so this probably isn't the room, but
Especially being on the advertising.
yeah, no, there's
Economy.
no idea has ever been
No.
created under the influence. But you talk about how one of the issues with the relationship between Mexico and the United States is that Mexico is merely just filling the demand of the United States for drug use, and that's actually harmed our relationship over the course of time because the powers that be never really consciously went to the center of the issue. But now in America, as we begin the process of medical marijuana legalization and state-by-state legalization, do you think that's actually going to be a kind of a great hope in the relationship, or do you think that causes more stress or really doesn't have any effect on it at all?
Okay, I'm for legalization of drugs, but all of them, because I base them on ethical reasons. We all were created free, and those of us who believe in God, we can go against God, we can spit on his face, we can go totally against him, and he will respect our freedom to do so. Same principle the founding fathers. They said governments do not have the right to intervene in my behavior, in my conscience, and my beliefs, unless I am affecting third parties. So freedom, liberty is absolute for a human being. That's the essence of what we are. So if in the case of drugs, abortion, marriages of the same sex, alcohol, everything, let the people decide by their own free and act with responsibility. So that's the main issue. Number two issue is that the killing you see in Mexico, we have to stop it. And we have to stop it through one way would be legalizing to take away the money of the cartels. 55 billion US dollars are raised in the drug market in United States, the largest market by far compared to anywhere else in the world. So we can take that money away from them and put it in the hands of government as tax. This is what is happening in Washington State, now in California, now in Colorado, and it happened in Portugal. Every single drug was legalized in Portugal, same as in Holland. And nothing wrong has happened. On the contrary, no violence. There is this dispensaries. You need a doctor's recipe or receta médica.
Yep. Prescription.
And you can do it. So
I mean, it could be a doctor's recipe, I'm just saying. Doctors are cooking up recipes, you know what I mean? We see it. We have a healthcare group.
My main concern is saving these kids. 80,000 of them die every year in Mexico, killed on the streets because of drugs, not drug consumption. Because they join the cartels to work for them. And by the way, the cartels operate for the cartels here in the United States. So like Ford Motor Company, they have a headquarters in Detroit, but they have a Ford Motor Company in Mexico. So Chapo Guzman works for somebody here. Mexican cartels are not selling drug here, are not collecting the money. Mexican cartels are not buying the weapons and the ammunition to import them into Mexico. So Mexico is trapped in between those who produce the drug in the south, Venezuela, Colombia, Bolivia, and the mammoth US market consuming drugs. In Mexico, we're trapped in between. Maybe the day will come when a Mexican president will tell to the US president, guy, that's it. I'm not going to be working for you anymore. If you don't want drugs in your country, you stop him in the border. Stop him right there. Build a wall to stop drugs. Do it. Great. But we are not going to be doing the dirty job. We're paying a huge price. 80,000 kids that were not born criminals, that did not have criminality on their genes, and yet they were killed on the streets. If those kids would have had a job, and this can be done with NAFTA, if those kids would have a scholarship to go to school, they would not have been criminals. They looked for that job, they looked for that scholarship, and they didn't get it. This is why I'm not here to explain why migration, but this is why some of them decided to come here to look for their future. And this takes me to DACA. I mean, those kids are great kids, each and every one of them. And it's over 1 million of them. And they have to be, respected and supported. And if you don't want them here in the United States, please bring them to Mexico. We love to have them. It's pure talent. I mean, all of them are graduates. All of them are, many of them working. They are brilliant. That's what Mexico needs. And if U.S. paid for them, U.S. should keep them here. But if you don't want to use them, please send them back. So DACA, if they kick you out of here, welcome to Mexico.
I love that. Just for those in the audience, Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals is DACA's acronym. One thing I wanted to talk about was the government as it relates to religion and spirituality. I think, you know, we're supposed to have a separation of church and state, but religion is constantly brought up as it relates to laws and legislation, but there's not necessarily a spirituality. One thing you talk about in your book is the needs for government to actually have a soul and an empathy and a spirituality that we don't have, cutting off people's health care, telling them it's just too bad, et cetera, et cetera. What's your view on ways that you feel that governments could have more spirituality? I mean, in a democracy, we're really a republic because we vote for those that vote for us, but we're all citizens here, so it's kind of on us as well. But maybe you have some advice for us as American citizens and also for governments as it relates to spirituality and legal and legislation.
Okay, with all respect, I'm 75 years old.
We should clap for that.
You
I'm
get
just saying, 75 years young.
And when you get to the top of age, you get wisdom. That's the gift we get in life, wisdom. And the second great gift is grandsons. So I can tell you about that wisdom in relation to your comment. It's very important that we, what was the question?
Where do babies come from?
What was it?
Where do babies come from? No, I'm just...
What was it?
No, the question was... That's okay. We love you. We love you. Hey, Dave, bring the tequila.
Come on.
We have emergency tequila in case he forgot any questions. Let's pour it up. He obviously forgot something, so we're gonna jar your memory here. Hold on one sec. You don't have to down it, because but you can get it. Cheers. Hey. All right. Let's see if we can help with that.
The question.
The question was spirituality and government. What can we do as citizens, or what?
Here I go. Freedom again. Freedom. Churches, all of them, great teachings, but they take away our liberty. They give you commandments. They give you obligations. They bring you to their thinking. Political parties, they make you lose your freedom. They become a dogma for many people. we have to think free, use our freedom with responsibility. So this is why I support so much spirituality. You don't have rules, you don't have regulations, you don't have conditions, but to think freely, to love the God that you better like, and to have the values that better for your own life. So that's why I say with all respect, because I'm a Catholic. And I still go to church, but I don't like confession, for instance, anymore. Why?
Do you have one thing you want to confess to us
And
tonight?
I'm a regular sinner. I'm a regular. So this is the principle. I mean, now we finally reached a stage where abortion has been legalized and it's been approved most everywhere in the world. Marriage of the same sex, same thing. I have to respect that. And politicians usually take decisions that are good for people and not dogmatic reasons. Look at the alcohol problem in the United States. 100 years before, when it started the prohibition, many groups, churches, were working on stopping the availability of alcohol. Because women said the guy goes to the bar, he spends all the money of the payroll, so don't sell him alcohol, don't open the bars. Took 100 years, but they finally got it. So prohibition came about. And it couldn't be sustained not even for 10 years. I mean, people revealed. And so it generated crime, it generated mafias, it generated padrinos. It's exactly what we have with drugs today. Many people say it's forbidden. Well, if it's forbidden, don't use them. If you're the mother of one kid, give him information, educate him, let him know that drugs are harmful to his health. And he will decide and he will take the right decision, believe me. Because Portugal, having approved all drugs, now consumption is close to 20% less consumption than when it was prohibited. So prohibitions don't work. They never work. Can I give you an example?
Yes, yeah, go ahead.
Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve. So God said, this is for you, Eve. Adam, enjoy. You have here everything that you can think of. You have fruit, you have food, you have sex. and so anything that you can or want to have is here. It's for you. Enjoy. And then he told them, but this tree, this apple, is the only thing I'm going to ask you. Don't eat that apple. It's prohibited. It's prohibited. And Adam came to me and said, oh, Jesus Christ, this might be like tequila, or it would have, maybe has a great flavor. We have to eat it. So they went in, got the apple, ate it. And so, out of paradise, out of Garden of Eden. But think about it, if God would have told them, look, Adam and Eve, this apple has worms. It's bad to your health. If you give him reason to a human being, he will understand. And maybe they would not have eaten the apple, and we would have the total world as a paradise today. Imagine that. Without Trumps, without Hitlers, without Maduros.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Tequila, and you think there was more than one apple on the tree, or just one? Just one apple. I want to ask you about globalization versus diversity. I'm a chief diversity officer, so one of the questions that I deal with in my day-to-day responsibility is, do teams work more effectively just with themselves, or when Brexit hit, is there a nationalism that's happening across the world versus a fear of globalization? Some studies that I read, or if you search on the internet, say that people that are mixed race are much more for globalization because there is actually no country for them to really retreat back to, but people that are from countries that have grown up in small villages or haven't traveled very frequently are kind of reverting back to the reality of nationalism. And I just wanted to ask you about the question of diversity and what we could do, again, all of us here, to better further the message or translate it to people that we come in contact with.
Great question. First, let me tell you, if you buy one of these books, you are going to be sponsoring one kid that has brain damage. Martha and I, on one of our foundations, we attend 500 of them. So each book is the opportunity to sponsor one of those kids, because all the income that is going to be coming out of the book is going for these 3 foundations that we have in Mexico. Centro Fox, which is a academy of leadership and a think tank, and Vamos Mexico, which distributes protein, nutrition. We have provided wheelchairs for anybody that needs a wheelchair in central Mexico. And the third one is Crisma, which is in San Miguel de Allende, which I invite you to visit. That's the champion city in the world. It's the most beautiful city. 36,000 Americans are retired in San Miguel de Allende. They are in paradise. It's beautiful. So Crisma is right there. And so all the income of these books has a cause, has a purpose. It will go there. I do conferences around the world. Every cent that I get on conferences goes to the 3 foundations. We love those foundations. It's our shortcut to happiness. You can imagine Martha and I, the joy we have in our hearts every day that we wake up with a new idea to do something else for others. What was the question?
Every time you forget, an angel grows their wings. Drunk. I know. This is what I'm talking about. You're by far the best interview we've ever had. The question was about diversity, but we can go. No, but in truth, we're all advertisers, influencers, marketers. We work with a lot of brands. You worked for Coca-Cola for many years. You know, what can we do in this room to talk to our brand clients, ourselves? What can we do to help the message go forward? Where do you see the citizen fitting in?
Freedom again. Freedom. Don't forget freedom, which we did not enjoy in Latin America for a whole of a century. We were in hands of dictators. We were in hands of messianic leaders that will determine what our life would be like it's happening here. So freedom is the ambiente where you develop creativity, entrepreneurship. So it's basic freedom of ideas to invent. This is Einstein himself. Is don't go for the granted. Don't go for the establishment. Go for new ideas. And this is what your congregation, your community does. I think it's extremely important to have freedom. You know that in the case of Microsoft in Seattle, half of the sale of cannabis in Seattle goes to employees of Microsoft. Steve Jobs himself, he accepted that for a time he had some drugs with moderation, or he would have a tequila, and then you become creative. I'm not recommending to your creators to do that.
No, we don't have enough tequila for everybody.
It helps.
We had Coronas tonight. You know, that was like the second thing on the list. So you opened the first presidential library outside of the United States. What? Tell me about that, or kind of, you work with the 3 foundations, and now you work, so you went private sector to public sector, and then public sector really to supporting charitable and causes that help support the growth of underrepresented or disenfranchised people. But what does the presidential library do, and where is it located? And tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, it's in San Cristobal.
One more question I have. Do you decide to make your own presidential library, or does someone...
No, we came and visited every presidential library in the United States. I did it once. Martha did it twice. So we got our first inspiration on U.S. presidential libraries. But we have moved on our own way, innovating and creating. We decided to build it right at the core of this place, beautiful place, San Cristobal. Imagine Gone with the Wind, that place that you go there and you feel love. You feel that you are loved, you feel great, and you're happy. So that's where Central Fox was built, on close to a 350-year-old building that happens to be or was the milking cow stable, where my grandfather used to milk 250 cows. And we would go with him in the morning to milk the cows. Boom, one by one, one by one. And then take the milk to the city, about 45 minutes away. And while the guy was distributing and selling the milk, we were in school. So that's where we decided to build the library. It's a blend of 350-year-old building, brick building, beautiful, and modern architecture, glass, concrete, and steel. So it's a beautiful place. Last year we welcomed 220,000 visitors. One of our main programs, we call it President for the Day. So we bring every day up to 500 kids from poor communities, from indigenous communities, from humble families, and we take them through an experience of 6 hours. And we tell them, you can be president of Mexico or the United States. And we tell them, you were not born to be poor. You were not born to be crime or a gang member or whatever. You were not born to be unemployed. You were born to do great things in your life. So they get the message. We change their gear, 500 every day, up to 50,000 a year. That's one of the programs that we have in that Central Fox Foundation. The other ones, for instance, San Miguel de Allende is brain damaged kids and persons, 500 of them we attend. So that's the joy of Martha and myself. We, every day, we wake up and say, thank God that you gave me the opportunity to serve, to give, and we're getting our return. The joy we have here is incredible. It's incredible. I wish Trump will feel a little bit the joy that you have in your heart when you have somebody else.
How do you get people to, let's give a round of applause. How do you get people to believe that giving is a greater return than money?
Only by experience.
Yeah.
Only by experience. You do it once, and fortunately, this country has the largest, by far, philanthropic sector of the economy, because it's a sector of the economy. And I visited kindergartens here in the United States, and kids go out to the community to take something to the community. In summer, they visit humble places, humble neighborhoods. So it's people here is being taught about the pleasure, the experience of giving. Yeah. And they get their return, I'm sure.
Yeah, I guess it's part of actually moving on and growing and, maturing. So it's
absolutely
important.
Yes.
It's important.
I mean, how many people is retiring here in the United States when they're 30, 35?
No one in this room is retired.
They made some.
I can assure you, 0 people in here are retired. There's one person in here.
You don't need much to retire. Don't think about money. Think about happiness. Think about joy. How many of you American people are in Africa helping people there? And you don't need money to do that. somebody will pay for your plane ticket. You will not get the return plane ticket. So you stay.
They'll pay for your one-way plane ticket. I like
You stay
that.
there.
What charity is that? The one-way charity? So we're going to play a quick lightning round here. This is to test your knowledge of Mexico. And this lightning round is called Mexico or America. And I'm going to call out some things, and you're going to let me know if they were created in Mexico or America. Okay? All right. You need more tequila for this, or you're all right? You got this?
Where we start? Yes?
Yeah, okay. The first one is the tortilla chip.
Corn and tortilla comes from Mexico. The chip is an invention here in USA, like the taco ball at Trump Tower. That's
Correct.
not real.
The tortilla
That's
chip
not
was
real.
invented in California. Queso.
California is
California.
Mexico.
Oh, California is Mexico.
Don't forget.
That's true. I love the sound of that. I'm going to Mexico next week. Queso, the food, not the word. Is that Mexico or America?
I don't know. Maybe the Jewish community, maybe they invented queso first, cheese, because they eat a lot of it. They eat a lot of it.
It was Texas was the correct. Well, Texas, maybe. Is that Mexico?
Mexico
too?
again.
Okay.
Mexico. Cowboy boots. Cowboy boots.
I got mine
Mexico again. Cowboy hats.
Nacho-
Mexico again.
Nachos.
Nachos. Mexico again.
Yeah, that was Texas.
Nah, come on.
I know. Hey, listen, listen, everything. What? The research is bad? Chimichangas.
What cherry changos?
America, that's the answer. Tequila.
Oh,
Yeah. The piñata.
Mexico.
China. Loophole. I had to throw one in there for the new NAFTA.
Trump's products. China. Trump.
Telenovela.
Mexico.
Exactly. Yeah. The Wall.
United States. Fucking wall. We're not paying for it.
Yeah. Now, I would be remiss if we didn't talk about your viral videos on Super Deluxe. Yeah, I love the way you got a video deal to troll the president. That's pretty progressive.
30 million.
30 million views. Now, what made you sign a deal with a viral web company to troll the president? We watch a lot of videos in here, so this is really our sweet spot.
This is for marketing people.
Yeah.
You enjoy your work. You have your plans. You have your objectives. But nothing is better than creation. Nothing is better to win. And nothing is better than coming up with a bright new idea. And this is what this community is all about. We used to work with McCann Erickson in the Coca-Cola company.
Never
You
heard
know
of them.
McCann Erickson?
I'm just kidding. We heard of them, but not in this building.
Well, we know they become obsolete now.
Yeah.
I accept that. How much you charge? What is 15% agency commission?
We can sit you with the CFO.
15.
I can't really speak on numbers.
6,
Yeah.
4,
We don't do
2
charity.
foundations. Can we get a pro bono?
Yeah, no, we'll work on an
foundations.
arrangement. Unlimited taco bowls.
Good deal. Good deal.
No, so you worked with McCann Erickson. So you're familiar with the ad community, Madison Ave, and what we do here. So it's important to know that when we saw you on Super Deluxe, a lot of us, we watched the videos. And are you going to keep creating those, or?
If they help me, yes, because they were part of the creation of it. Yes.
Yeah.
I love to do more.
So do you go online a lot, and do you tweet your own handle, and are you pretty active on social media?
I don't even understand that. I
Lucky
don't know
you're
how
not
to
drinking for that
tweet.
one.
I just have the ideas. Some ideas on this book are mine, but the black and white, the writing, the beautiful writing, is by Zulay Hernandez.
And she's here tonight, actually.
She is here tonight.
The woman who co-wrote the book with you is here tonight. Solai, where are you at?
It's pure pure poetry. It's prose, wonderful poetry.
There's Solange. She wrote. Solange, see if you can come down the stairs. Yeah, no, I mean, if you don't want to. I mean, I was trying to give you some shine, but.
America resist. The dream of freedom will not fade away into the night. Hope will always win. Love will prevail. That's her. She wrote that.
That's amazing.
Beautiful, ain't it?
Well, as we wrap up here today, we want to encourage everyone here to go on and purchase the book, Let's Move On, by 55th President of Mexico, Vicente Fox. We have some copies for the first 100 people that leave tonight at the door. But do you have any more parting words for us or thoughts or insight that you'd like to share with the room before we sign off?
One very short comment, and I already mentioned it. This is a book with a cost. As I said, every single cent that will come out of here will go to these three foundations. We're a 501c3 here in the United States, the three foundations. And we have IRS authorization to bring in the investment or the money down to Mexico. And we have to report to them. They supervise every dollar. So if you buy a book, you're going to start bringing joy to your heart. And we'll send you some information about those kids, thousands of them, and they will have a world of gratitude for you.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking with you tonight. Thank you. Let's all stand up and give a big round of applause. President Vicente Fox, 55th President of Mexico.